Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You're welcome here, whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. No matter what you've experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. You are welcome here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. And good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I think anyone who's made it this morning is like a champion, because we had a big event yesterday. How many of you were there yesterday? Wasn't it wonderful? Yes. The installation of Reverend Laura as our minister, making it all very official after 2 years of already being together and being part of community together. We finally got to make that official and celebrate the commitment to ourselves and to each other and to our minister. It was beautiful. I'm Brenda. I've been at South Valley a long time. I'm a secretary of the board right now, and my pronouns are she and her. And I welcome everyone who's here today. Our worship team is John doing every and all piece of music today. Bob Scarborough and Cinnamon and Tom Omer are our speakers. And I really appreciate them doing that for us today. Rob's going to do the Time for All Ages. And Stephen Smith and Maureen Davies, and looks like Richard's helping back there for sound and streaming. And so thank you to all of them and all of you for being here so we can be together and have worship. There's always a lot happening at South Valley, and we have a Happenings weekly newsletter. So hopefully you saw the QR code as you came in. That has the order of service. And that also has a way to subscribe to the Happenings newsletter. It's also in the inside the gray hymnal. There's a way to do that and get the order of service. We have the auction announcement. If Kristen is ready, come on up. And then we will say good morning to each other after we hear her announcement. Oh, she's got something cool on her head. What has she got?
What's on her head?
Well, hello, my darlings. I am here to invite you to the very exclusive 2002 annual SVU US auction, the glamorous gala. Held this year on Saturday, November 12th at 7 p.m. If you are the type of person who loves to get dressed to the nines, well, I have news for you. Dust off those fancy clothes, because this is the event for you. If you are the type of person who does not like to be dressed to the nines, well, I have news for you. Dust off your comfortable clothes or whatever you'd like to wear, and bring your glamorous spirit to our auction. Our auction is the biggest, funnest party of the year, and also the biggest fundraiser for our congregation. There will be a silent auction, a live auction, raffles, and a fabulous dessert. There's a music hour featuring our band made up of our congregation's musicians. And for those of you who are our online members, there will also be silent auction bidding available, and we will have absentee bidding for our live auction. Donations and tickets are available now at our auction website, auction.svus.org. Keep an eye on your happenings announcements and emails, or see me after for more details. Come, it's a lot of fun, I promise. Thank you.
So glamorous, you. Let's now just say good morning to each other. Take a moment to do that.
Big for the consumers and get the grim look. Yeah. And no, no,
I don't understand them.
are you can you wait? You might have to put your hands over the screen for that.
Oh, can't be three. No.
Okay. And just oh no,
You're very cool.
it's been
Around that.
hey,
Number 354. Number 354 in your gray hymnal. Please stand as you're willing and able.
I am not
We
religious.
love, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our
Yep,
song.
yep. Oh, Ted did all
We need to
Ted,
feel the sunshine.
and Nancy really useful. Put it over on the other end. But there is, oh no, I remember. Okay, yeah. A little, I don't know.
Well, your birthday?
Sure. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Let's go to verse 4. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the wisdom
No.
and strife. We search for truth and unity and blessed peace of mind. And then we believe I have a helper to light the chalice this morning. Please stay standing for lighting the chalice. Okay, so we light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Okay, now you may be seated. And we have story time. And we have a really cool, did everybody see what's happening up here?
Good morning, church. My name is Rob Carlson. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at South Valley Church. Before we have our story this morning, just a few announcements in the life of our Religious Exploration Ministry for kids and teens. This morning, we have a few different options for our kids joining us this morning. We have our kids area, kids corner there in the back. Of course, kids are always welcome to remain in worship with their families. Downstairs, following the time for all ages, we have our own children's chapel time. We also, downstairs, have a nursery for our young toddlers and younger. Aria Allen is back there. She's waving. She'll be our child care provider this morning down there. And also, this morning, we have... we don't have, rather, our junior high leaders are out of town today. So unfortunately, we won't have our usual junior high group this morning. But if our junior high folks, I know there are some, you're welcome to remain in worship. Or if there is a kind adult who would be willing to supervise, you would be welcome to be out on the playground for our junior high folks as well. Also, this afternoon, we have our high school youth group, which is going to be taking place at First Unitarian Church. We're going to be building some haunted gingerbread houses. And speaking of such things, next Sunday, the 23rd, we are going to have our annual Trunk or Treat event out on the front lawn and in the parking lot. If you are someone who would be willing to decorate your vehicle and hand out candy, please let me know. It's always a really fun time. We'll also have a pumpkin patch, pumpkin carving, and some cookie decorating and some other Halloween activities happening after church next Sunday. So we hope that you will join us for that. And so with that, I invite all of our young people and the young at heart to join me up front on the steps here on this side of the stage for our time together. We'll gather around the campfire. And I'm not really that good at building campfires, I'll be honest with you. So what I really like about this campfire is that it kind of just is able to take on a life of its own. Is it warm? Everyone says that it's warm too. I love that it's so immersive. That is wonderful. Have any of you been camping or had a campfire at home or in a fireplace? Yeah? Yeah. Well, this month, here at the church, No, this is a fire that's safe to light at church, kind of like the one up there. Oh, and let's move back just a little bit because these logs are kind of delicately put up here. Thank you. We'll use our eyes to enjoy the fire this morning. I'm so glad that all of you are here. This month here at church, we've been talking a lot about courage, and courage is that feeling in us that we feel when we're feeling brave, when we're feeling like we might want to try something new. And courage is, whoops. All right, let's just use our eyes, friends. Thank you. That's okay. This is maybe a more natural look for the campfire. I like it. You scoot back just a little. Thank you, friends. Appreciate that. So courage can kind of be a hard thing. Sometimes it might be really easy to be brave. Sometimes it might be really easy to try something new. But sometimes trying something new, thank you, can be really difficult. And I know for me, when I was your age, and actually still now as a grown-up, there are things that that are hard for me to be brave about. And one of the things that really helped me kind of feel courage in myself was going to camp, going to summer camp. I was really shy, still am kind of shy. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself because I was, and still am, kind of a little awkward when I'm meeting new people for the first time, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable to be around a big group of people who you don't know. But the awesome thing about camp is when I started going to camp, I met a lot of new people who were my age. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a really hard time fitting in because, well, I'm not really comfortable meeting new people. But you know what I figured out? Is that all of the other kids who were there, like me, they were also feeling the same that I was. Sometimes we might like to kind of put on a brave face, but inside, we're still feeling a little worried. But it didn't take me long to realize that camp, like this community, is really special because we all kind of know that, well, we're all people. We all have feelings. And when I was at camp, I realized, you know what? I was not alone in feeling like I was the only one who was shy or awkward or had trouble meeting new people. But camp really helped. I don't know, have any of you ever been to a summer camp with other kids? Yeah. You know how when you start doing things together, even if you're meeting each other for the first time, you really quickly start to feel like you've known each other for a long time. And so with that courage that I found at camp, when I was in about high school, I was aware that I was so thankful for the ways that camp helped me be brave, helped me have courage. So much so that even in high school, I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to help other people feel that same way, to be able to create space for other people to be able to feel brave. And so that's why I decided to become a youth minister. And so I would imagine that you all, whether it's at school or in some of your other groups of friends, sometimes you might be a little nervous. We just started a new school year, and some of you might be moving to a new school. You have new people in your classes, and that can be really scary. And sometimes, it doesn't stop being scary. And that's okay. But I hope that all of you will have opportunities in your lives to not only feel like you're brave enough to maybe try something new, even if you try something and you fail, that's okay. I think bravery is just the feeling that you want to try something new, or that, hey, maybe this will be okay. And if it's not, that's okay too. And even more, I hope that sometimes you might be able to be the person who can help someone else feel brave. If there's a new person at school who maybe is having a hard time making friends, maybe you can be the person to help that person realize that, hey, you're part of us. So I hope you'll find those opportunities. And I hope that next summer that we'll be able to get you all to summer camp. We do summer camps in our church as well. And so we have camps out in the Pacific Northwest. We have a camp out in Wyoming. We have a camp down in Colorado. And so that's something that I really hope that we'll be able to bring a lot of you to this summer too. So thank you all for spending time with me this morning. And this week I encourage you to find ways, maybe when you're at school or even when you're at home with your siblings, to find ways that you can use your confidence and your bravery to help other people. All right? So, my friends, if you would like to be in our kids' corner up here with your families, or if you would like to come downstairs, we are going to do some singing, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the heck is this Unitarian Universalism. What is that? We're going to talk about the church a little bit. We also have, as I mentioned, Aria, who's doing our nursery care for some of our younger friends. And so let's let our campfire, our friends out here are going to watch our campfire while we're downstairs. So if you'd like to come down, you can follow me. Good to see you all this morning. So our junior high leaders are out of town. So you can either be up here, or if you can find an adult who's willing to help you, you can be out on the playground. Yeah. This doesn't happen very often, so I'm sorry about that. Please, may the spirit of love surround you.
Everywhere you may go.
All right, down the stairs.
Oh. I love that he left the campfire for us. Yeah. This community and our church is made up of ourselves and our talents and our time and our treasure. And at this point in our service, we take an offertory that will support here at South Valley, but also support a charitable organization that aligns with our values. And today that's ANSWER, which is American Nepali Student and Women's Educational Relief, that helps low-caste and impoverished people of Nepal address the problems of poverty through education, primarily giving educational scholarships. So please read with me the offertory words that's in the order of service. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. Wow. Thank you, John. Wondering if you guys all want to come up around the campfire a little closer now that the kids have gone down. Anybody feel like coming on up? Because we're going to have our congregants speaking to us, each other, and they can see you better, talk to you. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Plus, the campfire is really cool. I saw some of the kids going like this to the campfire. Thanks. Before we have our speakers, we have a ceremony of our joys and sorrows. And everyone gathered here today is welcome to come and place a stone in the water for a joy or a sorrow, or maybe you place one of each. We do this silently. We think about what we're doing as we place the stone. And those at home can join by placing their joys and sorrows in the chat box. And we hold you in our hearts as well. And so John will also play during this, which is very much a gift. And we'll come up this aisle and place our stones and go back that aisle. And we can start at any time. Thank you. A stone for those things we hold in our hearts a stone for those at home. Courage is our theme of the month. It comes from Soul Matters, which is a program that all UUs are doing. So we know that all of our sister and brother congregations are thinking about courage as well. And today we talk about and think about knowing ourselves and how we connect with others deeply in order to know ourselves, as that's a part of it. And as I thought about this, I'm thankful to the 3 people who said yes, that they would speak to this today. And I also thought about, for myself, a time of deep knowing and growth and grief was when we lost our nephew Weston at the age of 17, over 20 years ago now, to suicide. We withdrew. We didn't come to South Valley for a few years because of our grief, and we could barely do what we had to do with each day. And when I heard this song that I'm going to sing a quick little chorus to, I realized I had to come back to life. And the way to do that was this. You must give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. It takes a lot of courage to do that. We do it all the time, but it takes a lot of courage. And what we gain in return is immeasurable. It has joys and it has sorrows. So how do we get to know ourselves through all that? Tom will start. Thank you, Tom.
Hello, everyone. I'm not planning on singing for you, so this is not going to be as good as Brenda. I could. My name's Tom Omer. My pronouns are he and his, and I'm excited to be here and share a little bit about my journey and how I ended up where I am and how it relates to courage and vulnerability. I want to start out with a quote from Mr. Rogers. He said, "Anything that's mentionable is manageable." Or at least he did in the movie. It turns out when I looked up the quote, he didn't actually say that. But that's what he says in the movie, which is pretty good. Here's the actual quote. "Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary." Anyway, pretty good summary. Anything that is mentionable is manageable. It takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to be honest, I think first with ourselves about what we're actually experiencing, what we actually think and believe and see, and then to be honest with those around us and bring them into our circle of sharing. So I'll tell you just a little bit about my background. I was born in Provo while my dad was going to BYU. My parents both graduated at BYU, met at BYU. I grew up very LDS in a very loving family. My parents are just amazing people. I love spending time with them. I love spending time with my siblings. We have great times together. I met my wife also at BYU. We were going to school there, and then I ended up transferring to the University of Utah, where I finished my degrees, and then we started our family, moved our family out to California. I worked for an engineering company in California for a bunch of years while our family was growing. We ended up with 5 kids, and then we moved back to Utah just 7 years ago. And I'm just super lucky to have amazing kids, a bunch of whom came today to support me, and I really appreciate it. Along the way, I think I was, in retrospect, I would call myself a closet skeptic. I was always kind of the doubter, kind of, really? Is that really? But I kept it all to myself. And as we're talking about sharing and vulnerability, I think this is, in some ways, a cautionary tale. I don't think I set a great example for being honest with myself and bringing that, others into my circle of sharing. I don't think I shared as much as I wish I had, looking back. It was a lot of doubts that I just let kind of build up inside of me. And anyway, and then COVID hit, right? And it affected all of us in very dramatic ways. And in my case, what it meant was that I was a lot less busy because I had been super busy, always, busy doing different jobs in the church and everything else. And all of a sudden I wasn't busy anymore. And I said, great, I'm going to read scriptures and journal. And so I found out that writing in a journal is a really, really great thing. I highly recommend it, but be careful. Because you might discover things about yourself that you didn't know. Anyway, so I started writing a journal, and the big difference was it was a journal that I had no intention of ever sharing with anyone ever, which was the first time that I'd ever done that. Every other journal I'd ever written was not explicitly to my kids or future grandkids or whoever, but I would kind of write it that way to be like, representing my life to them. But this was the first time that I wrote a journal that was 100% just for me, and I literally had, I didn't actually delete it, but I might actually. Anyway, like I say, and I discovered a few things about myself. I discovered that I really didn't believe in the things that I kind of thought I had believed in all this time. And I'm not going to go into all the details of the kind of my whole faith deconstruction. It's a whole messy journey, but the one thing I want to highlight that I discovered I really, really believed in is this one little nugget, which is the key to knowledge is ignorance, which, is kind of a contradiction. And I don't mean it in the sense that, we love to be ignorant or love to not know things, but more in the sense that we have to embrace not knowing, not having certainty about things before we're really open to any kind of knowledge or information. This is a key part of science as well, where we have to actively work to discard our inherent biases that we have and just examine the evidence that's in front of us and be open to wherever that may lead. Anyway, so as I did this, I discovered that I was ignorant, and that being ignorant is like really important to admit that we don't know things. And I started looking around for a place where I could go to church and worship and do the things that I love to do, sing and whatnot. And I found the UU. I found this congregation. And from the very first time I came, it was actually almost exactly 1 year ago. It was in October of last year that I just, kind of snuck out in the morning and came to a service before I went to my regular LDS meetings. And I really was instantly in love with this congregation. I loved how welcoming people were. I loved the music and the participation. But most of all, like I say, I loved the celebration of doubt and the celebration of uncertainty. And as it says in the, I gotta move my notes up here, but it says in the fourth principle, if I can find it. I wrote it down here. Anyway, whatever. It's something like, that it's a true, or what is it, an honest, a free, and something search for truth and meaning. Yeah, well, that was terrible. Okay, anyway. I'm going to find it in my notes as soon as I sit down. Anyway. But like I say, I just love having a warmth of community without the certainty, and where we know that it's okay to doubt. I mean, I was just now, we sang in the opening song, I wrote it down here, even to question truly is an answer, right out of the hymn that we just sang. Anyway, I love it, and this is really the foundation of knowledge. Anyway, to bring it back together, I'm going to actually read a scripture out of the New Testament here for you. This is Philippians 4:8, words that are attributed to Paul. Nobody really knows. Their scholars disagree on who actually wrote this, but they're wonderful, very true words. Finally, beloved. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to read it to you in Reverend Laura's favorite version. This is the NRSV version. Anyway, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And I'm going to, I hate to even mention such a controversial figure as Joseph Smith, but here's a great thing that he did, one little great thing that he did, I think. He took these words and he rephrased them in the 13th Article of Faith, which quotes it almost exactly, and then includes this phrase. Instead of think about these things, he said, we seek after these things. And I really like that. As a matter of fact, I would add another word of my own. We seek after these things together. So I just want to end with this challenge that we can, like Mr. Rogers, that we can have the courage to mention the things that are deepest and most important in our lives so that they can become manageable. May it be so. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cinnamon Wolf. I have been a member here at South Valley since about 2015. And for those of you who might not know me, I have a background in religious studies and ministry and chaplaincy. And I've served as a hospice chaplain for several years. And so when Brenda mentioned talking about being ourselves, the first thing that came to mind was the metaphysical process theology concept, as one, does. Because it totally makes sense. So anyways, when I was in undergrad, I started studying process theology. And I went on to study it a little bit in grad school. And process theology, or process thought, is based off of the philosophy of an early 20th century mathematician turned philosopher, Alfred North Whitehead. And it's very complicated, so I'm going to try and just pare it down to what kind of is appropriate. And so at that time, society, and especially kind of religion and philosophy, was being challenged and impacted by the growth of science, and in particular evolution. And we're still coping with that today. And Whitehead posited that our beliefs need to take into account reality and the advancements of knowledge and science in the world, and that our beliefs should change with new knowledge. And so he put together a kind of a way to understand existence. And it's somewhat similar to kind of Eastern traditions, where we are in, the present moment. This is how we're actualized in this moment, as ourselves, or in community, or as a piece of wood. And this moment has all of these influences that come from the past. So we have our personal lives, and our family members' histories, and our ancestors, and there's cultural history, and there's theological history, and there's just the history of the world, and geography, and now climate change. And as we come together, each of you have your paths that are coming together, and your histories, and all of that comes, and it's here in this moment. And in this moment, there's opportunity. And a lot of the opportunity is quite limited. We don't have absolute freedom to become whatever we want. I cannot turn myself into a pink unicorn right now, as much as I would love to. But I can make choices in the moment that are healthy for my body. Or I can make choices in the moment that are healthy for us as a community. And so we have all of these kind of pulls that are pushing us. And there's a term called the power of the past. And, each moment, there's a lot of repetition. There's not a lot that we can always change. And sometimes that power comes in the form of family pressure, or religious pressure, or societal expectations. And it can be quite difficult to break out of those patterns. But we have opportunity. And process theology in particular talks about the call or the lure of the divine, which that word always makes me laugh, of thinking God is like, come. But the divine in process theology is not, and this is one of the reasons why I fell in love with it, is not this like omnipotent, overpowerful being that can control everything and that everything's destiny. The divine is omnipresent, as present in all of existence, and observing, and loving. And because the divine is omnipresent, the divine is omniscient, knowing and observing and seeing all that is. And with that knowledge and with that love, the divine invites us to take part in paths that promote love and well-being, and in that we are co-creating with the divine, the world, because we have the freedom and the choice to follow that lure, to follow that invitation. And one way I like to think about it, or kind of hit me when I was thinking about this, is has anyone seen Moana, the Disney movie? So it's came out a few years ago. It's beautiful, and it's about this Polynesian girl on an island with her family. She's the son of a chief, and they do not leave their island but something's wrong, and the nature is kind of everything's turning to ash. And so she feels like we have to leave the island, and she's always felt her whole life this pull and this call of the ocean. And in Moana, the ocean is a character. You know, it's not just water, but it actually plays with her, and and invites her, and has a free will of itself, and calls her and invites her to go on this journey to return the stolen heart of Te Fiti. And in Moana, she has a moment where she's faced failure with her companion who's supposed to be helping her, and he left, Maui, the demigod, and because he had his own trauma and his own difficult past, and that failure was too much for him, so he left. And so here she is. She felt called by the divine, or by the ocean. She felt like she had this purpose, and she knew that there was this task that she needed to get done, and she didn't know how to do it, and it felt overwhelming and painful. And in that moment, the spirit of her newly deceased grandmother shows up, and she offers her compassion and love and understanding. And she doesn't scold her. She even says, "I asked too much of you." Because her grandmother early in the movie encouraged her to follow the ocean. And her grandmother asks her, "Do you know who you are?" And so Moana talks about that she's the daughter of a village chief, and she's descendant from voyagers who used to sail across the ocean, and that they call me, and that she's in love with the ocean, and the ocean calls her. And through all of that, she didn't have to. Her grandmother was fully supportive of her going back home, and even the ocean accepted her, saying no. So having that rest and having that moment to heal and reflect and to think about who she is, she then makes the decision to go back to get the heart of Te Fiti and to return. And Maui at one point reflects to her, "I know why the ocean called you, because the ocean misses your ancestors who used to sail in it from island to island. And the ocean was the connecting force. The ocean was there in the past and knew her ancestors. And the ocean knew who she was. And the ocean knew who Te Fiti was, and Te Fiti's trauma and heartbreak. And the ocean knew Maui's heartbreak. And the ocean invited them to come together into that precious moment." And so that's how I think about the divine, that the divine has been with us through our whole lives and with our ancestors, and is there across the universe and the world, and inviting us in each moment to love each other, to love ourselves, and to even take time to heal, which is something that, I was having a hard time coming up with something to say, because I have taken a break from ministry because I need to heal, and I needed it to be okay. And it is. And I don't know what I will do, but I also know that life isn't just about your career or just about, having a family or this, or life is all of that, and community is all of that. And all of the winding paths that I have taken in my life and in my ministry, I've been so anxious about. And So, like, is this the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Am I choosing the right church? Am I choosing the right degree? Am I taking the right classes this semester? Every little thing. And it was okay. And it is okay. Because in those moments, I have loved what I was doing in that moment. I have loved the churches that I have belonged to. I have loved the friends that I have been friends with. I have loved the schools that I have gone to. And even if I never go back to the same path, I appreciate the journeys that I've been on, and I appreciate the invitations that were there in those moments and the invitations to come. And I was sitting here thinking, no one begrudges a river for having a winding path. It's a river and it's going to flow the way it flows, and that is beautiful. And our life, we are rivers, and we are invited to flow the way that we need to flow. And that is beautiful. Thank you.
So, everything that Rob said is true about me, except one thing. I was that 12-year-old that didn't have the courage to stick out camp. He got sick, and they called his parents to come home so he could go home. Anyhow, my name is Bob. I am a friend and ally here at South Valley. I'm married to Ann, who's been a member since 2016. And my pronouns are he and him. And I'll be sharing with you this morning about connecting in this community or any community or group. And here at South Valley, we have so many small groups to get started in, don't we? And through these groups, long-lasting and deep relationships are formed. Just talk with Brenda, Rob, or John, Reverend Laura. If you feel inspired and have the courage to go there, it will be so meaningful if you do that. So, by random, Ann is the movie picker in our family. And so we had some time a while back, last week as a matter of fact, and I don't know if it was before Brenda extended the invitation to me and others to do what you're hearing this morning. But we watched a movie with Billy Crystal in it by the name of City Slickers. Anybody know that? So I'm not going to do, if you haven't watched it, you should. Long story short, 3 38-year-old guys were struggling to find meaning in life. And so they decided, one of them said, let's do this. Let's go out to a ranch in New Mexico and help herd cattle from New Mexico to grazing in Colorado. And so they did this. The trail boss's name was Curly. You know, picture the real cowboy out in the West, right? On his horse. And Curly said there was just one thing, and he always raised one finger when he said this. You just got to figure out one thing. And that one thing is what's most meaningful to you. And then your life will begin to have that meaning. I love the starting question that he challenged these three with. He said, so, and this was like a small group, I want you to share the best day of your life and why. And then I want you to share the worst day of your life and why. And think about that as a starting question in Soul Matters or any other group, you know, where you're looking to build a deeper relationship with somebody. A lot can come from that. The only rule in this little group of 3 or 4 that were on this trail ride together was you couldn't share the birth of a child as being the most meaningful thing that happened in your life. It had to be something different than that. There is no doubt, and I'm not going to continue on with the movie. You can watch it on Netflix just like Ann and I did if you like. It's really well done, I think, as I reflect back and think about that. But there's no doubt in my life that every chapter had and does have meaning for the next step in where we and where I need to go, where the church needs to go. Every group that I've been part of has pushed me and prodded me to have that courage to learn more about me, so I had more to give back in my personal life, in my marriage life, and in my church and work life. So a young married couple in their mid-20s were invited to become part of a grief support group at Minneapolis Children's Hospital. And the only thing that they had in common with the other parents that were part of this group is they had lost a child, from preemie to older teens. And it was led by a staff person versus a chaplain or a therapist, but this person had her life story as well. And that's what was the bond that cemented the group into coming together. If I were to ask myself Curly's question to the cowboys, the wannabe cowboys and city slickers, what was the best and worst day of your life and why? I would honestly say it was when our son died, when Justin passed away in our arms. That day would be something that I never forget, but I feel that way because in 4 years we went through 20 hospitalizations with him as our son. As hard as that was and is to even think about the intensive care situations that we bonded with professionals, the way you bond as parents with people. Ann and I went on a life walk together that changed us as human beings and changed our souls forever. The group and the community that these people built was very special. It was hard work. It was hard work for me and others to talk about their feelings when you're so in this deep place called grief. But over time, you come out of it. We became stronger over time and found that nourishment and inspiration by connecting deeply with others through this small group. This experience in our life is not difficult for us to talk about now. We can and we will. Don't feel like there's a bad statement or question about our experience. You can ask Ann or I about that. But in my mind, to this day, I think about our son frequently, and I ask that question, why? This experience, as well as others in my life at church, workplace, prepared me for one of the toughest assignments I had as a business guy. And had I not truly understood life and death situations and built the value of caring that I think I had from, a little kid, because my parents were great at showing their love to me and my brother. But I was called by the corporation to move from Minneapolis to Salt Lake City to lead a group, a business group here in the valley in South Salt Lake. And I accepted. It was the only relocation that Ann and I did in our whole career, was to come out here. I'm glad I said yes. It pushed me to another level, and I was blessed with a number of relationships with people that's what I think about. I don't think about what I did so much. I think about all the people that I was able to connect with. So this particular group of people, the operations team of the lumber business, they're the ones that put the orders together out in the yard, forklifts, heavy equipment. It's a risky part of the job compared to sales and administrative. Anyhow, I had opportunity to interact with these 12 guys 12 guys. The hardest working component of the organization was the ops team. This group had suffered the experience of seeing one of their friends and workmates nearly be killed in the workplace. So they all saw it happen. Think about post-traumatic stress syndrome and what that incident may have done to those guys. It did. So I wrestled with, Jim was his name. He wasn't killed, but he was disabled for life. He learned to walk again. One of the questions I had was, should he be part of our annual safety recognition event going forward after that incident? The conclusion that we as a group came to is, yes, he should. He was the guest of honor. Picture this, what we did at the annual safety recognition event. They picked the place. I always said, sure. And we went. We went as a group, a small group, all guys in this case. And the recognition dinner was held at the Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse in West Valley. They picked the spot because they liked good steaks. The group gathered, and picture a restaurant where there's a large table in the center, and you've got the booths around the perimeter and the small tables, and there's this group of 12 guys sitting in the middle of everything. They needed to be there to share how meaningful they were to each other and how meaningful it was to not let Jim go out of their lives. And here's the thing. At the end of dinner, the most spiritual act of compassion took place in this restaurant in front of everybody. At the end, the guys hugged each other and told each one how much they cared about who they are and what they're doing together as a team. That experience forced, gave me courage to grow in my value of caring for others. There's no doubt in my mind that Justin's life and death prepared me for that work experience. I'm not sure if you wrote the newsletter article this week or Reverend Laura did, but I'm going to quote about there are times, so I'm quoting from this week's newsletter that we all had received. There are times it can feel difficult to break free of habits of mind that keep us safe, protected, and stuck. Yet, we all also know that breaking free of fear and anxiety and boldly naming what we want and the why is critical to building a life of meaning. So, my invitation is let's all continue to explore with us the ways in which courage to be bold, brilliant, resilient, and kind can break down the barriers to living life on our own terms, even when we don't control the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Amen? And may it be so.
Wow, thank you, all three of you, so much. Let's just take a couple of deep breaths and let's absorb all this good wisdom and beautiful stories and how they reflect on our own experiences. Yeah. We're going to extinguish the chalice. If you'd like to stand as you're willing and able to do that, and then we'll sing after that number 301 in the gray hymnal. If you want to have that ready, we'll go right into it. So, and we say the words together for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action, and we hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores where spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faithful quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children as the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirits soaring as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky. And let us be seated to listen to John's postlude. Oh, that's it. And let us go have hospitality downstairs. Yay.